Hey guys, this is a real short update video, but about a subject that's important to me, and I know it's important to maybe 50 or 100 of my Patreon supporters. Many months ago, I wrote a children's storybook. I wrote it in Chinese. It's been translated into English, Japanese, Russian, German, quite a number of languages, and there was real excitement for the upcoming process of my getting a professional illustrator to work on it and then take this forward to actually publishing it as a storybook. So it is, in case you hadn't guessed, it's sort of a vegan propaganda storybook. It explains some of the concepts of veganism to children in a way that, you know, definitely parents could sit down and read this storybook to children. I'll provide a link in the description below this video. You can hear the script. You can hear the whole book. As with most, it's meant to be a picture book, so there are not that many words. There are not that many pages of text, but a lot of the responsibility is going to hang on the illustrator. So there was an illustrator who expressed passionate interest in the project, and for many months we've been hoping that she would progress at least past making concept sketches to really working on the book. And I could get into the details, but it seems like it's a moot point now. It seems like there's just no point in explaining what has and hasn't happened, because that is not going to work out. And it's not the case that I've canceled the project with her and I have somebody else, or I have a list of other people, of other great vegan illustrators who can step up and take on this project. I would say that, you know, if I was just going to mention one fact that really pertains to both the past illustrator and the future illustrators of the project, is that if you read the story, it describes a number of kind of surreal landscapes where we look out over a large area. It describes a view of the ocean. It describes a view of various animals flying in the sky. It describes birds sitting on a telephone wire. But, you know, there's another scene where it describes the world as it would be imagined by a cow that's lived its whole life inside a factory farm in the mechanized, you know, meat industry leading to a slaughterhouse. So there are a number of these sort of landscape views of the world, and there are some artists and illustrators who are my Patreon supporters, by the way. I mean, I know I have one Patreon supporter who is a portrait artist. But if you think about it, even if you're comfortable with doing a portrait, you know, of a human face, normally face and shoulders or what have you, it's still quite a creative challenge to take on that kind of landscape. In this case, it's a bit of a surreal and provocative landscape in the context of a children's story. A children's story that is in some ways fun and lighthearted, and in some ways a little bit grim and thought-provoking and saddening. I mean, ultimately, this is about animals being slaughtered for meat and so on. So no, at this point, I still have not received my very modest inheritance from the death of my father. I mean, nobody even listens to Durian Rider anymore, but Durian Rider has been saying for more than a year that I'm supposedly a millionaire because my father is dead. The total amount of money I stand to inherit from my father's death is 25,000 Canadian dollars. Which is really nothing. In US dollars, it's like 20,000 US dollars. I think it's probably less than 20,000 in euros, whatever the exchange rate is now. But 25,000 Canadian dollars is a very modest sum of money. And it always was out of that inheritance that I was planning to pay for the book to be illustrated. I was also hoping that I could get an artist who was enough of an independent career illustrator that they could bring in some of their own excitement, you know, some of their own fans, and we could do something like a Kickstarter, mostly just to promote the book, where people could buy copies of the book in advance and just create hype and expectation, you know, among people who are fans of the artist, people who are fans of my YouTube channel, and then more broadly reach out to vegan parents and get some hype going for the book. However, with things as it stands now, it looks like I'm going to have to proceed by just going ahead and hiring a Heartless Corporation, put it that way, you know, one of the for-profit companies that just provides illustration services on a straight up, you know, someone who's not a vegan activist, not an independent artist, because I have no other options. And the real question facing me will be, do I try to work with a Canadian illustration company, which has some advantages for publishing the book in Canada, or am I going to, say, employ an illustration company, corporation, based in Taiwan or South Korea, somewhere in Asia? So that is the stage the book project is at now. As I've mentioned, I mean, anyone who follows my channel knows I'm not a millionaire, and I have this very modest inheritance, and I'm looking at really a very difficult chapter of my life coming up, where I'm returning to Canada from living in China this last year, trying to get back into the Canadian workforce, back onto a viable career path, and at the same time, almost all of my money that I have, all the money that I earn, is being spent just trying to spend quality time with my daughter, because I have a very difficult divorce arrangement and my ex-wife is not cooperative at all, where I have to fly over to the south of France and spend time with my daughter over there on a schedule that's really wildly incompatible with my situation for my own education career in Canada. So that is what it is. But nevertheless, this book is something I really value. It's something I value positively in my own life. It's something I value for the future of the vegan movement. And yes, absolutely, it's a book I hope to get illustrated so that I can sit down and read it with my own daughter one day.